Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins and I help you to make beautiful things. Today I'm really excited to share with you something that you can do to add some added interest to your watercolor sketchbook. So you see I still have these magnificent Rosa Gallicas or Apothecary roses. The rose bush in my garden is just blooming its head off. And what I've got here is an assortment of roses, and I'm going to see if I can get them into the camera. So here they are, fully opened, and here are some buds that are on their way to opening. And if we go around the bouquet here, you can see various stages of the rose's development. So here you have an example of the rose with the petals that have fallen. Here is where the rose hip is going to be forming next. And then here are some rose hips left over from last year that lingered through the winter. So the roses, the bouquet tells a story about the rose's life cycle. And you can see I've got a bunch of petals here that have fallen off. So they're active right in the midst of going through their cycle. And I wanted to see if I could tell that story in my sketchbook today by adding a decorative border to what I've already done. For those of you who are just tuning in, this is my garden journal watercolor sketchbook, and you can learn how to make this journal. I've got several videos of the different stages, and there is also a series of classes going on throughout the summer that you are welcome to join in, and you can find out more information on my website at dandelioncottagedesign.com, and just look for the Summer Garden Watercolor Workshop and you can learn more about it. And if you haven't signed up for my email yet, please do. Subscribe to Notes from Dandelion Cottage, because I'm going to be sending out information and how to register in an email tonight. So this would be a perfect time for you to subscribe. And all that information, all the links can be found in the description after I finish my live video. So here is an example of a sketchbook spread, and you can see the videos that I painted these images on my YouTube channel, which is Dandelion Cottage Design, and you can get an idea of how to begin doing something like this. What I'd like to do now, though, is I'd like to create a border around the edges and pull this whole thing together using those buds and rose hips and roses that I just showed you. So what I have here is a little ruler, a number 2 pencil, and a kneaded rubber eraser. And I'm going to begin by just placing my ruler in the corner so that I have an equal distance from this edge and this edge. And because my sketchbook has a torn edge or a deckled edge around the paper, I'm not going to worry about getting it exact, just close enough. I'm putting a very light pencil line. I'm going to continue that right up to my painting up here, and then I'm going to do my horizontal line, again keeping the same distance, And I know you can't see the pencil line very clearly, but in a little while, once I get going, you'll be able to see it better. I'm going to continue that right across the spread to the opposite side. And this pencil line can be erased after the initial painting has been started. Once it's dry, you can just remove any signs of graphite that you may not want to have there. So there's my guide there, and I'm going to continue I'm using the width of the ruler to create the width of the border. And this ruler measures, it's 3/4 of an inch wide. So if you don't have a ruler that measures 3/4 of an inch wide, then what you can do is just measure the distance between your lines with a ruler and just put some tick marks so that you can see where you want that to go. I'm just going to pull this down a little bit so I can see it better. Okay, so those are my guidelines, and I'm not going to be able to finish the whole thing in one go, but what I will do is I'll start over here, and then later in the thumbnail you'll be able to see the finished border. So for that, I'm going to get out my watercolors now. I'm just using yellow, red, and blue. And if you're brand new to painting with watercolor, or you'd like to improve your skill, you can learn much more about my various techniques of using watercolor that are very simple for beginners. So I have a 1, 2, 3 step method to help you get started on the right foot and get some nice results without spending a lot of money on materials. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned, subscribe to Notes from Dandelion Cottage, and you will find out much more about how you can get started in a very easy and pleasant way. So let me just check my settings. I want to make sure that you can hear and see me. Okay, that looks good, and I see Kelly and Beverly. Hello ladies, I hope you're having a nice day so far. In my watercolor sketchbook, I also have a pocket where I can keep my pencils and my brushes handy, so it's very easy for me to get started painting. And off to the side, I have some water containers, one for clean water, one for dirty water to rinse my brush out in. I also have a damp sponge to blot my brush on to help reduce the amount of moisture. And I've got a paper towel in my left hand ready to go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a little design in this upper right hand corner, and for that I'm going to zoom you in so that you can see it better. And I'm looking at my beautiful roses for inspiration. So I think what I'd like to do is have a larger rose in the corner, and then have some leaves and stems trailing away from it. So I'm just going to very lightly begin, and I'm starting with the center of my rose. Adding the petals, and this is one of the roses that is missing a lot of its petals. They've already fallen. And then I want to add a leaf. And I'm keeping that within the border, but I'm allowing little pieces to go outside the border as well. And then what I want to do is I want to have a kind of a design. So for instance, if I just make a simple sort of a squiggle, okay, going down the page, something like that, I can use that as a stem and then add my buds, my leaves, my rose hips, all the different features that are on the shrub. I'm not going too close to the edge. And I'm just doing some very light sketching. Okay, not getting too detailed, just enough. Just enough to help guide me when I begin painting. Now over here, I'll join up. Oh, sorry, let me get you back. I went off the page there, sorry. Over here, I'm adding a leaf that's going to join up with the previous painting. And I know I want a little bit of color here, so I'm going to add a bud. And another leaf over here, and so on. Okay, so I've got enough information on here now to get started, and once I begin putting the paint down, you'll be able to see much better. So I'm going to begin with a very light wash of green, and I'm using a lot of water, and I just am adding enough paint so I can see where my leaves, a little on the stem, bring that through here. Okay, so as quickly as that, I can get my design started. Now I can do the same thing with my pink, a very, very pale pink, and I can add a little color. To my buds and my little flowers that are just starting to open. And then up here, I've got my larger flower that's starting to lose its petals. And I can also see the center of the flower here, so I'm just going to get my yellow started. So there Maybe if I put it this way, you can see it better. Okay, so there's the beginning of my border design. And all I need to do now is to just develop these things a little bit further. And these do not have to be completely finished paintings. They can just be little sketches. It's entirely up to you how far you want to bring these elements to your border. I'm just going back in and indicating the shadows. And in my online classes, I talk much more about developing form and shading and how to get that started in a convincing way. Can go back to my leaves, give them a little more attention. My stem. There we go. I'm just mixing up a little more green, this time a little bit darker, but still painting very lightly. And I'm keeping my painting sketchy and light so that I can continue to refine it and make changes if I choose to. So I don't want to commit myself to anything just yet because it's a work in progress. So I just kind of get these things get this one. Now I think what I'd like to do is add a little blue-green tone. So for that, I can take my blue and add just a little bit of yellow to it. It's got a dash of red, so it's sort of a muted color, and I can use that to add a little more depth. So I can add some of these leaves going back into space. Just like that. Maybe add another one down here. Get the broken edge of the leaf with the tip of my brush. There we go. All right, so it's starting to turn into something now. And you don't have to stick with just flowers. I mean, if you want to add a butterfly or a bug, you could do that very easily. Add a little more interest. Just going to add a little more color to my rose buds. And then inside my rose in the center, I want to give that, all those wonderful stamens, a little more attention. So for that, I'm taking my yellow with a drop of red, and I can just start to, you know, put some little strokes in here to show all that texture and activity going on in the center of the rose. There we go. And then I want to vary the tone of that stem, so I can add a little bit darker green, okay, in the shadow areas, just a couple of touches. I'm just going to make that a little more descriptive of what's happening, make it a little more interesting. Now, at this point, I'm pretty happy with the way this is developing. I just want to get a little more color on this leaf, and also down here. And I want to indicate those little edges. Same on this leaf. I can pick out some of the veins, make that a little more descriptive. Okay, I see I have some comments, so let me take a look and see what everybody's saying here. Beverly says that she loves the pocket for the brushes. It's so handy. I wish I had done that in my earlier journals. I'm really enjoying that pocket. Okay, and there's Carol. Hi, Carol. Beverly says, can the signatures in the journal handle light watercolor accents? Well, yeah. I mean, you're seeing me do it. So the trick to the sketchbook being able to handle watercolor washes and so forth is just the quality of the paper that you're using. This is a very fine quality hot press watercolor paper. It's 90 pounds, so it's very light so that it folds easily, and has a wonderful, it just works beautifully for the pages. You can see that it's not too thick, so I recommend a 90 pound. Now you could use either cold press or hot press. In this case, I'm using hot press because I tend to do a lot of botanical painting and small things like butterflies and moths and toads and salamanders and all that sort of thing. And so I want something that I can get a lot of description and detail in, and so the hot press paper helps me to do that. Now I also, having said that, I also love to paint landscape paintings, and for that I like to use a cold press paper. So if you're creating a sketchbook that maybe you'd like to do both close-up observations of nature, or you'd like to do landscape paintings, you might want to bind your book with a combination of hot press or cold press paper. And that's the wonderful thing about creating your own sketchbook, because you can use the exact kind of paper you like and make it whatever size you like. I have a trip coming up in a little while that I'm going to be traveling out west, and so for that trip I'm going to make a special sketchbook to take with me, something that's small enough that I can pack it easily on for the airlines, and also be able to get various texture when I do my sketching. So yeah, experiment with the hot press and the cold press and see what you like. If anybody else has any questions, please go ahead and post them in the comments, and I will be checking again in a little while. So now, at this point, I've kind of got my basic composition established, and I can let it dry because it's slightly damp right now. I can let it dry a little bit and then come back to it and add some finer details if I choose, or not. And another thing that I can do that I think I'm going to add is I can add a little background now within the border. So I'm kind of contemplating whether I want that to be a color, or do I want it to be like a metallic gold ink. So I haven't quite made my mind up on that yet. And what I might do is just do a quick sketch on a little piece of scrap paper and experiment and see which I prefer. So that would be the safe way to proceed, is to just do a little quick thumbnail on another piece of paper. So that is the beginning of my border. Now I'm going to zoom out so that you can see it better. Let me make a little room here. So there's the beginning, okay? And of course I will continue. I'll continue all along here and then down here, and I'll have a lovely page in my journal where I can start to write notes and record my thoughts, maybe a poem or a favorite quote, whatever it may be. You could even continue to paint on the inside, maybe add some photographs, whatever you like. It's your journal. So I hope that helps. Let me see if there's anything else here. That looks like that's all for the questions. So thank you so much for joining me today. Let me get one of these roses so that you can get a good look at it. Oh, there go the petals. So there it is. Remember to sign up for notes from Dandelion Cottage so that you can get the email that I'm going to be sending out tonight with more information about signing up for the Summer Garden Workshop. I know you're going to love it. You will have access to various videos. We're going to be concentrating on 3 different flowers. So we've got the peony, the rose, and then the next flowers, which I'm not going to tell you yet because it's a surprise. And also some bonus videos on how I made my sketchbook, and you'll also, when you get the class kit, you will also get a sample of this paper that I'm using so that you can try it out for yourself and see what you think. Stay well, stay happy, stay creative. I'll be back tomorrow for Paper Crafting Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll see you then.